Look, Grandma, I don't need you for that. Okay? We've got it covered. I gotta go now. I stood there, phone still warm against my ear, listening to nothing but the dead air of a hung-up call. Those words, "don't need you," didn't just echo. They clanged in my head like a shattered bell. I sank onto my kitchen chair, the very one where Matt used to sit, wolfing down my chocolate cake, and felt a cold, physical ache spread through my chest. This kitchen, once always thick with the scent of simmering food and bright with laughter, now felt cavernous, hollow. In the fridge, a jar of homemade caramel sauce sat untouched, a sweet thought of him I'd never shared. In the pantry, those chocolate chip cookies he'd loved since he was a little boy waited. I looked at my hands, wrinkled, spotted with age, but still strong enough to knead the bread dough he'd always raved about. Hands that changed his diapers, that steadied his first wobbly steps, that clapped wildly at every single one of his graduations, from kindergarten to college. And now, he didn't need me anymore. You're probably wondering how it came to this. How my Matt, that bright-eyed boy who'd race into my arms the moment he saw me, transformed into this adult who barely spares a minute for a phone call. Let me tell you how it all started. Everything shifted about 8 months ago, the day Matt met Stephanie. I remember it clearly, a Sunday in April. I'd prepared a lavish Sunday dinner, the kind he always adored. A pot roast, slow-cooked all day, filling the house with warmth. "Grandma, this is Stephanie," he'd said, a new, almost electric spark in his eyes. She was undeniably pretty, tall with sleek dark hair, dressed in clothes that whispered, "expensive." She greeted me politely, but right away I sensed a chill, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So lovely to meet you, Barbara. Matt talks about you endlessly." During dinner, I caught her eyeing my home, the antique furniture, the framed family photos on the walls, the crocheted doilies I'd made myself. It wasn't overt disdain, but a subtle, silent appraisal, as if she were mentally cataloging everything she found lacking. Matt, usually so vibrant and talkative at my table, was different. He kept checking his phone, nodding to everything Stephanie said. When I offered him another slice of cake, he actually refused. "We're watching our carbs, aren't we, honey?" Honey. The word felt alien coming from my grandson, not because of the sentiment, but the deferential tone, as if he were seeking her explicit permission. That same day, as they were leaving, I overheard a snippet of conversation by the gate. "Your grandma is sweet, but so quaint," Stephanie murmured, adjusting her designer purse on her shoulder. "And those doilies? My grandma had those too, ages ago." Matt chuckled, a strange, unfamiliar sound I'd never heard from him before. "Yeah, she's a bit of a relic, I guess." That stung, a sharp, quick pain. But I swallowed it. He was in love after all. And who hasn't said foolish things when they're completely swept away? In the weeks that followed, his visits dwindled to almost nothing. His calls grew shorter, often routing straight to voicemail. My messages would sit unread for hours, their replies growing briefer with each passing day. "Everything okay, Grandma?" "Busy right now. Call you later." Later rarely, if ever, arrived. In June, it was my daughter Nancy's birthday. I organized a quiet family dinner here at home. Matt confirmed he'd come, then sent a text at the last minute. "Can't make it tonight, Grandma. Steph isn't feeling well. Gotta stay with her." Later, I saw photos of them on social media, looking perfectly healthy, smiling with wine glasses in hand at some trendy, expensive restaurant downtown. I didn't say a word. What could I say? That I was hurt? That I missed his presence? That I'd spent the entire afternoon making that lasagna he loved? Just for him? In July, Matt turned 23. I bought him a deep blue sweater I'd seen him admiring in a mall window. I'd saved for 3 months just for that gift. I called him first thing on his birthday morning. "Hey, Grandma," he answered, his voice thick with sleep. "Happy birthday, my dear. God bless you abundantly. I have your gift right here. When are you coming to pick it up?" "Oh, thanks. Look, I'm swamped today. Dinner with Steph and her folks tonight. Got a test tomorrow morning. Maybe this weekend?" "Of course, no problem. Do you want me to drop it off?" "Nah, no need to bother. I'll swing by when I can." He never did. The gift sat on my dresser for weeks until I finally took it to the apartment he shared with 2 friends. I left it with one of his roommates because Matt wasn't there. He'd gone to spend the weekend at Stephanie's parents' beach house. 2 weeks later, a text popped up on my phone. "Thanks for the gift, Grandma. It's cool." No call. No visit. August arrived, and with it, Matt's college graduation. Oh, the pride that swelled in my heart. My grandson, an engineer. I remembered Robert, my late husband, saying Matt would be somebody important one day. Robert didn't live to see it, but I was there, representing both of us. I bought a new dress for the occasion. Navy blue, modest but elegant. I even splurged on a trip to the hairdresser, a rare treat. I wanted to look my best for the pictures. I'd saved for months to buy him a silver wristwatch. Not a famous brand, but sturdy and handsome. At the ceremony, I could barely get a word in with Matt. He was a magnet, surrounded by his friends, by Stephanie's parents. Perfectly coiffed people who looked like they'd stepped right out of a glossy magazine. When I finally squeezed through the crowd, he gave me a fleeting, almost perfunctory hug. "Congratulations, my dearest. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Grandma. I really need to go talk to Stephanie's dad. He knows some people who might help me get an internship." And he walked away, leaving me standing alone in the swirling tide of people. Afterward, there was a celebration at David and Brenda's house. When I arrived, it was clear I was one of the last to be invited. The table was already set, guests settled. Stephanie's parents sat in the places of honor, right beside Matt. I stood in a quiet corner of the living room, watching my grandson laugh with people I barely knew, at jokes I didn't understand. When I finally found a moment with him, I offered my gift. He opened the small box, gave the watch a quick, almost dismissive glance, and said, "Thanks, Grandma. You really didn't have to." He set the gift aside, turning his attention back to Stephanie's dad, who was holding forth about real estate opportunities. It was that night I knew, with a cold certainty, I was losing my grandson. Or maybe I'd already lost him. The weeks that followed were even quieter. Matt didn't call, didn't appear. I saw on social media that he and Stephanie were apartment hunting, planning to move in together. Their feeds were full of trips, expensive dinners, photos from places I'd never seen. That's when I called him, just aching to invite him for lunch, to bridge the growing chasm between us. He answered, his voice rushed, distant. "Matt, darling, how about coming for Sunday lunch? I'll make that roasted chicken you love." "Oh, Grandma, I'm just swamped. I'm deep in apartment hunting with Steph. Can I help you look? I have time, and I know the city." "Look, Grandma, I don't need you for that, okay? We've got it covered. I gotta go now." And he hung up, leaving me with those sharp, cutting words. "I don't need you." 4 words that shredded years of affection, of care, of unconditional love. 4 words that made me question if I'd ever truly been important in his life, or if I was merely convenient. The grandma who babysat, who cooked, who helped when his parents couldn't. I spent days replaying every memory. The afternoons I picked him up from school. The nights he slept over when David and Brenda were out. The weekends we'd spend watching those cooking shows he adored. The stories I'd spin about his grandpa, about his own dad when he was just a little boy. Did none of it mean anything to him? Was I just a utility? Yesterday the phone rang. It was David, my son. "Mom, everything okay?" "Everything's fine, dear. And you?" "I'm good. Look, I'm calling because... well, Matt and Stephanie found an apartment. It's small, but well located, close to where he'll be interning." "That's good," I replied, a strange caution in David's tone. "I don't understand why you're telling me this so carefully. It's just that they need a co-signer and some money for the down payment." I felt my heart seize. I knew exactly where this conversation was heading. "I can't be a co-signer, David, because... well, my credit's not the best after that car loan I took out. And Brenda suggested that maybe you could help. Be a co-signer, and maybe lend them a little from your savings." So that was it. Matt didn't need my company, my stories, my affection. But he needed my money, my signature, my guarantee. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly before answering. "Son, tell Matt that just as he doesn't need me, I've also found I don't need him. My savings are for my old age, not for someone who only remembers I exist when they need something from me." A stark silence hung on the other end of the line. Then, David said I was being too harsh, that Matt was young, that I should try to understand. "I understand perfectly," I replied, my voice steady. "I understand that I raised a grandson who believes a grandma's love is only there for convenience. But now, I'm the one learning to draw my own boundaries." I hung up, a strange sense of peace settling over me. It hurt. Yes, of course it hurt. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was respecting myself. This morning, I gazed at the picture frame on the mantel. A photo of Matt as a child, perched on my lap, both of us grinning at the camera. I traced the glass with my fingertips, a deep ache of longing for a time that wouldn't return. The phone rang repeatedly throughout the day. David, Brenda, even Nancy. I let it ring. I needed this time alone, to absorb the pain, to truly accept that the Matt I knew might never come back. But life, relentless and unyielding, moved forward. Tomorrow I'll go downtown. Perhaps pick up some yarn for a new scarf. After that I might drop by Eleanor's, my friend of decades who always has a cup of coffee waiting. Who knows? I might even sign up for that seniors painting class at the community center. The truth is, at 67 I've learned that love shouldn't be a one-way street, and sometimes we must step back to preserve our dignity, our peace of mind. If Matt ever truly wants to come back into my life, the doors will be open, for shared meals, for heartfelt conversations, for genuine affection. But never again to be used, because now I know. I don't need to be just the useful grandmother. I need to be Barbara, a woman who deserves respect and consideration. And if my own grandson can't see that, perhaps it's time to show him, and myself, that I still have value, with or without his recognition. Tonight, I'll sleep with a painful yet liberating certainty. Just as he doesn't need me, I don't need to live my life for someone who only values me for what I can offer materially. And tomorrow will be a new day. A day where, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, I will live for myself. I ignored David's and Nancy's calls for the next 2 days. I needed that space. On the third day, when I finally answered, David sounded clearly annoyed. "Mom, why haven't you been answering my calls? We were worried sick." I needed to think, honey, to clear my head. "Look, about Matt. He's really upset about what you said. He thinks you just don't understand his situation." I took a slow, deep breath before answering. Through the kitchen window, I saw the flowering dogwood in the backyard, its white blooms just beginning to burst forth. How many times had Matt climbed that tree as a boy? How many times had I worried sick, terrified he'd fall? What situation don't I understand? David, the one where a college-educated young man only remembers his grandmother when he needs money? Mom, it's not like that. He's just starting out, building a future with Stephanie. It's normal for him to need a little help. Help! I repeated the word, tasting its hollowness. Help I've given his entire life. What he wants now is to use my savings, the money I scraped together cent by cent for years. Money that I might need for my own medications, for an emergency. You've always been so generous. Why are you being so what, honey? Selfish? Is that what you're trying to say? A heavy silence fell on the line. Then I continued. Do you know the last time Matt came to visit me without asking for a single thing? It was over 6 months ago. Do you know the last time he called me just to see how I was doing? I can't even remember anymore. I heard David sigh, a long, weary sound. Mom, he's young. Kids are just like that. Forgetful. No, honey. Forgetful is forgetting your umbrella on a rainy day. Matt isn't forgetful. He chose to push me out of his life until he needed my signature and my money. That night, sleep refused to come. David's words hammered in my head. Was I truly being unfair? Was I demanding too much from a 23-year-old? I rose before dawn and went to the kitchen to make coffee. As the water boiled, I remembered a similar morning, so many years ago. Matt must have been about 12. It was a Saturday, and he'd slept over because David and Brenda had gone to a wedding out of town. I woke early, as always, and found him already sitting at the kitchen table, absorbed in a drawing. Good morning, my love. You're up early today. He smiled. That brace-filled smile he thought was so hideous, but which to me was the most beautiful thing in the world. I'm making a drawing for you, Grandma. I leaned closer and saw it. A drawing of the two of us, holding hands, with a huge heart drawn around us. In wobbly, colorful letters he'd scrawled, "Best Grandma in the world." It's for your birthday, he explained. Still 2 weeks away, but I just couldn't wait to make it. I kept that drawing like a precious gem. It's still tucked away in a drawer in my dresser, right alongside other cherished memories. That morning, we made pancakes together. He loved helping in the kitchen, always eager to stir the batter, to flip the pancakes in the sizzling skillet. Afterward, we spent the day playing that dusty old board game his dad used to play as a kid. It was a simple day, nothing grand or extraordinary, but it was filled with that everyday love, those small, quiet joys that make life truly worth living. Where was that Matt now? When did he transform into this stranger who barely spares a moment for a phone call? The following week, I had an unexpected visitor. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was watering the plants in the backyard when the doorbell chimed. Opening the door, I was surprised to see Nancy, my daughter. "Hi, Mom," she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. I was just passing by and decided to stop in. Nancy never just passes by. She lives clear across town and works full-time as a nurse. If she was here on a Tuesday afternoon, it was because she'd come with a purpose. Come in, honey. I just made a lemon pound cake. We settled into the kitchen, just as we always did. I poured us both steaming cups of coffee and cut 2 generous slices of cake. Nancy seemed nervous, stirring her spoon in her cup, rattling the ceramic. Mom, I came to talk about Matt. Ah, of course. I should have known. Your brother asked you to come, didn't he? She looked a little embarrassed. Not exactly. I mean, he told me what happened, but I wanted to come on my own. I'm worried about you. Me? Why? Because I've never seen you refuse help to anyone, let alone Matt. You two were always so close. I took a slow sip of coffee before answering. Nancy, do you remember that time when you were about 15 and you were desperate to go to that rock concert with your friends? She frowned, clearly puzzled by the abrupt shift in topic. I remember. What does that have to do with anything? I didn't let you go. You were furious with me, said I was ruining your entire social life. Mom, I was a teenager. Teenagers are dramatic. Yes, but do you know why I didn't let you? Because the concert was in a dangerous part of town, late at night, and you wanted to take the bus home alone. I was protecting you, even if you couldn't see it then. She nodded, still not quite grasping my point. Sometimes saying no is an act of love, honey. Not just for others, but for ourselves. Nancy sighed. Mom, Matt and Stephanie really need this apartment. It's close to his job. The rent's reasonable. And why aren't her parents helping? From what I understand, they're far better off than I am. Well, it seems they're already helping with the furniture and other things. Then why do I have to be the co-signer? Why does my small savings have to be drained for the security deposit? Nancy fell silent for a moment. Mom, you've always been so generous with all of us. When I needed money for nursing school, you didn't hesitate. Because you came to visit me every week. Because you called me just to know how I was doing. Because when your father died, it was you who slept by my side for weeks, terrified I'd do something foolish. I felt my eyes welling with tears. Matt only remembers he has a grandma when he needs something. Nancy, that hurts. It hurts deeply. My daughter reached across the table and firmly clasped my hand. I know, Mom. I see how sad you get when he cancels visits, when he doesn't return your calls. So you understand why I can't just open my bank account and my home as collateral for someone who shows so little care for me. She squeezed my hand. I understand. And being honest, I think Matt needs this lesson. He's been truly different ever since he started dating Stephanie. You noticed it too? Everyone noticed it, Mom. Even David, but he won't admit it. He thinks it's just a phase, that it'll pass. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, simply eating our cake and drinking coffee. Then Nancy said something that utterly surprised me. Do you remember Eleanor? Eleanor was our neighbor for over 20 years. A widow like me who raised 3 children on her own. Of course I remember. Why? Remember how her kids treated her? How they only showed up when they needed money or someone to watch the grandkids? I nodded. It had been heartbreaking to see how Eleanor was exploited by her own family. You always used to say she needed to learn to say no. That her children would never respect her if she just kept being useful to them. I remembered those conversations perfectly. Eleanor would come over for coffee and weep, telling me how used she felt. I always advised her to impose boundaries, to value herself more. And now you're following your own advice, Nancy concluded. I'm proud of you, Mom. That caught me completely off guard. I'd expected Nancy to come and try to convince me to help Matt, not to support my decision to refuse. You don't think I'm being too harsh? I think you're being fair, Mom. To Matt, and most importantly, to yourself. When Nancy left, I sat for a long time, pondering our conversation. It was immensely comforting to know that at least one person understood my position. That I wasn't being seen as a selfish, bitter old woman, but as someone who had finally learned to respect herself. 3 days later, I was engrossed in my favorite show when the doorbell chimed. It was well past 8 in the evening, an unusual hour for visitors. Opening the door, I was stunned to see Matt standing there. "Hi, Grandma," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Matt, what a surprise." He looked awkward, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Can I come in?" "Of course," I replied, stepping aside. He walked into the living room and stood awkwardly in the middle, looking around as if he'd never seen it before. How many times had he raced through this very room, playing tag with his grandpa? How many times had he crashed on that sofa, watching cartoons until far too late? "Want some coffee? Or juice?" I offered gently. "No, thank you. I came to talk about the apartment." "Of course. The apartment. What else would it be?" "Sit down, son." He perched on the edge of the sofa, still not quite meeting my eyes. "Grandma, Dad told me you don't want to co-sign for the apartment." "That's correct. Can I ask why?" I took a deep, fortifying breath. It was time for the blunt truth. "Matt, when was the last time you came to visit me without asking for something in return?" He looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean?" "When was the last time you came here just to see me? To talk? To ask how I was doing?" He opened his mouth to reply, then closed it. He was struggling to remember, and the very struggle spoke volumes. I've been busy. College, my internship, Stephanie. Too busy for a 5-minute call? For Sunday dinner once a month? He looked away, his gaze fixed on the worn Persian rug. "Grandma, it's not that I don't want to come. It's just life's been crazy busy. Life's always crazy busy, Matt. For all of us. It's a matter of priorities." He finally met my gaze, his eyes searching mine. "Are you saying I'm not making you a priority?" "I'm saying your actions show it. Or do you think it's normal to show up after months of silence just because you need my signature and my money?" He stood up abruptly, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "I knew it would be like this. Stephanie said you wouldn't understand." "Oh, Stephanie said that, did she? And what else does she say about me?" He hesitated, realizing he'd overstepped. "Nothing, Grandma. She just thinks you're a little old-fashioned." "Old-fashioned because I refuse to jeopardize my financial security to bankroll your apartment? That's not it. It's just... You've always helped everyone. Why is it different now?" I stood up too, feeling a surge of strength I didn't know I still possessed. "Because now I've realized I'm being used, Matt. Used by a grandson who only remembers he has a grandmother when he needs something." He shook his head, a look of disbelief on his face. "You're being unfair. I've always loved you." Love isn't just a feeling, Matt. It's action. It's showing up. It's calling to see if I'm okay. It's stopping by on a Sunday just for coffee and a chat. I saw his eyes well up, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the little boy I knew. The one who cried when he fell and ran straight into my arms for comfort. Grandma, I'm so sorry if I made you feel that way. It's not about how you feel, Matt. It's about the asterisk facts. When was the last time you called me just to see how I was? When was the last time you came to visit without asking for anything? He stood silent, tears now tracking paths down his cheeks. I don't know. Exactly. Neither do I. We stood in silence for a few heavy moments, the weight of unsaid words pressing down on us. Then Matt wiped his tears with the back of his hand, just as he had done as a child. I really am sorry, Grandma. I guess I got a little lost. That honest confession softened the edges of my heart. But I couldn't yield now. Not if I truly wanted things to change. Matt, I love you more than you can possibly imagine. But I can't keep being just useful to you. I can't only be remembered when you need something. He nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. I understand. And you're right. I've been selfish. I'm not asking for perfection, Matt. I'm just asking for consideration, respect, affection. He moved closer and for the first time in a long time, pulled me into a real hug. Not those quick, almost mechanical embraces of recent months, but a tight, bone-deep hug, like the ones from long ago. Can you forgive me, Grandma? I felt my own eyes well up. Of course I forgive you, my dear. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to co-sign for the apartment. He pulled back, meeting my gaze directly. I know. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. How? Well, Stephanie's dad said he can co-sign if we can come up with the deposit ourselves. I'm going to get a loan from the bank. Are you sure? Bank interest rates are steep. I am. It's the right thing to do. I can't start my adult life leaning on my grandma, can I? I smiled, a complex mix of pride and profound relief. Want some coffee now? I still have those chocolate cookies you like. He smiled back, a genuine warmth in his eyes. I'd love some, Grandma. As I made coffee in the kitchen, I heard Matt rummaging through the bookshelf in the living room. When I returned with the tray, I saw he was poring over an old photo album. Check this out, he said, pointing to a fading picture. I must have been about 5 here. It was a photo of him in the backyard, sitting on the swing Robert had built. I was beside him, pushing, both of us grinning into the camera. Your grandpa built that swing with his own hands. You adored it. You'd spend hours out there. I remember, he said, turning the page. And this one? When was this? The photo showed Matt at about 8 years old, covered head to toe in flour, standing beside me in the kitchen. Ah, that was when we tried to make bread together for the first time. Remember? You put in too much yeast, and the dough just bubbled right out of the bowl. He laughed, a rich, genuine laugh I hadn't heard in far too long. I remember. You were so mad, but then you laughed so hard your stomach hurt. We spent the next hour just like that, sifting through photo albums, recalling old stories, laughing at shared memories. It was as if time had simply rewound, as if the last few months of icy distance had never existed. When Matt finally said goodbye, it was well past midnight. Grandma, can I come for Sunday lunch? Just me. No Stephanie. So we can talk more. My heart swelled with warmth. Of course you can, my dear. I'll make that roast chicken and potatoes you love. He gave me one last tight hug before leaving. I love you, Grandma. Truly. I love you too, sweetie. I closed the door and returned to the quiet living room, feeling a peace I hadn't known in ages. I understood that not everything was magically resolved. Matt still had much to learn about true respect, about genuine consideration, about the real meaning of family. And Stephanie's influence would still linger. But that night had been a beginning. A small, crucial step in the right direction. On Sunday, I woke early to prepare lunch. I made the roast chicken and potatoes Matt loved so much. A rich, savory stuffing, a crisp, fresh salad, and of course, the chocolate cake for dessert. At 11:30 a.m., I heard the doorbell. Too early for Matt. Opening the door, I was surprised to see Stephanie standing there. "Good morning, Barbara," she said, with that same smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Good morning, Stephanie. Matt isn't here yet." "I know. I came alone. I needed to talk to you." I hesitated, but eventually stepped aside. "Come in." She entered, her gaze sweeping around the room with that familiar assessing air. She was impeccably dressed, as always, in clothes that seemed far too expensive for a student. "Have a seat," I offered, gesturing to the sofa. "Want some coffee?" "No, thank you. I won't be long." I sat in the armchair opposite her, waiting for her to speak. "Barbara, I came to talk about the apartment." "Of course. What else would it be?" "Matt told me you two spoke, that you refused to co-sign." "That's right." She shifted on the sofa, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "Look, I understand you're upset with Matt. He's been busy. He hasn't been visiting like before. It's not just that, Stephanie. It's the attitude. It's only remembering his grandmother when he needs something." She sighed, a put-upon sound, as if she were dealing with a stubborn child. "Barbara, we really need this apartment. It's close to Matt's job. The rent is good. And why can't your parents co-sign?" She seemed genuinely surprised by my blunt question. "Well, they're already helping with other things. The furniture, the refrigerator." "I see. So the riskiest part was left for me, wasn't it? To co-sign, to lend money that might never come back." Stephanie frowned, her irritation now palpable. "Are you implying we won't pay?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm merely stating that, of all the possible forms of help, the most hazardous part fell to me." She stood up, her annoyance now undisguised. "You know what your problem is, Barbara? You just can't accept that Matt has grown up, that he has his own life now, with different priorities." That accusation stung, not for its content, but for the sheer audacity. "And you think you know my grandson better than I do? Who raised him?" "I know the Matt now. You know the boy he was." I stood up too, a fierce heat rising within me, a rage I rarely allowed myself to feel. "Stephanie, you are in my house. You came here asking for something, and you have the nerve to disrespect me?" She seemed to finally grasp she'd gone too far. "I didn't mean to disrespect you, Barbara. I'm just trying to make you understand our situation." "I understand perfectly. You want my money and my signature, but not my company, my advice, my affection. That's not how it is. It's exactly how it is. And you know what? It's fine. Matt is an adult, like you said. He can make his choices. And I, too, can make mine." Just then, we heard the familiar rattle of keys at the front door. It was Matt, arriving for lunch. "Hey, Grandma, I brought some wine for He stopped mid-sentence, seeing Stephanie in the living room. "Stephanie, what are you doing here?" She turned to him, visibly flustered. I I came to talk to your grandma. Matt looked from Stephanie to me, instantly sensing the sharp tension in the air. About what? About the apartment, I replied, my voice calm but firm. Your girlfriend came to try and convince me to co-sign. Matt closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if battling a rising tide of frustration. Stephanie, I told you not to do this! But Matt, we need that apartment. You said you'd try again, and then you set up this luncheon. And you thought you could just come here behind my back? He cut in, his voice sharper, louder than I'd ever heard him speak to her. Stephanie crossed her arms, defensive. I was just trying to help. Someone needs to be practical about this. Matt shook his head, a look of profound disbelief on his face. Practical? You call it practical to show up at my grandmother's house without telling me, to ask for money? I didn't come to ask for money. I came to talk, to explain our situation. Stephanie, please. Matt interrupted her again, his voice strained. I think it's best you leave now. She stared at him, genuinely surprised. Are you seriously telling me to leave? I'm asking you to respect my grandmother and our conversation from yesterday. I told you we'd figure it out, remember? That we didn't need her help. Stephanie grabbed her purse, her face a mask of furious indignation. Fine. I see your grandmother is more important than our future together. It's not about importance, Stephanie. It's about respect. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, leaving a heavy, ringing silence in the living room. Matt turned to me, his face mortified. Grandma, I'm so sorry about that. I had no idea she was coming. It's okay, honey. It wasn't your fault. He set the wine bottle on the table and came closer, pulling me into a warm, comforting hug. Is lunch ready? I'm starving. I smiled, deeply relieved he hadn't gone running after Stephanie. It sure is. Let's head to the kitchen. Over lunch, Matt told me about his new plans. He'd managed to get a small loan from the bank for the apartment deposit, and a trustworthy coworker had offered to co-sign for the lease. It's not the apartment we initially wanted. It's smaller, further from downtown, but it's what we can afford right now, on our own. You're doing the right thing, Matt. Starting off on solid ground. He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. You know, Grandma, after I left here yesterday, I did a lot of thinking about how I've been acting, about what I've been prioritizing. And did you come to any conclusions? I did. I realized I was pulling away from the people who truly care about me, that I was letting Stephanie influence my decisions far too much. She does seem to have strong opinions. He offered a faint, sad smile. She certainly does. And they don't always align with what I truly believe. We ate in silence for a moment, the comfortable clinking of silverware the only sound. Then Matt said something that startled me. Grandma, do you think Stephanie and I are a good match? The question caught me completely off guard. I didn't want to overly influence his decision, but I also couldn't bring myself to lie. What truly matters is what you think, my love. But I want your opinion. You've always been honest with me. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Matt, what I've seen is that ever since you started dating Stephanie, you've changed profoundly. You've distanced yourself from family, adopted different values. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just not sure she brings out the best version of you. He nodded slowly as if he'd already known the answer. Just needed someone to voice it. You know what she told me yesterday, after I told her about our conversation? that I was being manipulated by some needy old woman. My chest tightened painfully at her cruel words. "And what did you say?" I told her she had no right to talk about my grandmother like that. That if anyone was manipulating me, it certainly wasn't you. I remained silent, allowing him to continue, to fully unload his burden. "I think we're reaching the end, Grandma. Stephanie and I've been thinking about it for a while now, but I didn't have the courage to admit it to myself. And now? Now I see clearly that we're on different paths, that her values simply aren't the same as mine." I reached across the table and firmly grasped his hand. "Whatever your decision, my darling, I will be here to support you." He squeezed my hand back, his eyes glistening. "I know, Grandma, and I'm so sorry I forgot that for so long." In the weeks that followed, Matt became a constant, welcome presence in my life once more. He'd come over for Sunday lunch, call me almost every day. Sometimes even showing up unannounced just for coffee and a long, meandering chat. I learned from Nancy that he and Stephanie had broken up. I didn't press for details. I waited for him to tell me himself when he was ready. One Sunday, as we were washing the dishes together after lunch, he finally brought it up. "Grandma, Stephanie and I broke up." "I knew, my love. Are you doing okay?" He dried a plate meticulously before answering. "I am. Actually, I feel relieved, like a massive weight has been lifted from my shoulders." "What happened?" "A lot of things. The final straw was when she suggested I sell the watch you gave me for graduation to help with the apartment down payment. I was shocked. But that watch isn't worth all that much. It's not about the monetary value, Grandma. It's about the meaning. When she suggested that, I knew, with absolute certainty, that we'd never work out. That our values were just completely, irreconcilably different." We continued washing dishes in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Matt said, his voice quiet, "You know what scares me the most? How close I came to losing myself. How I almost stopped being who I am, just to please someone who, deep down, didn't care about what was truly important to me. The important thing, my love, is that you realized it in time. Thanks to you, Grandma. If you hadn't cornered me like that, had that tough conversation, maybe I never would have seen the truth." I smiled, a profound mix of relief and gratitude warming me. Sometimes we just need a good shake-up to truly wake up. He chuckled, a light, genuine sound. "And what a shake-up. I've never seen you so mad." "I wasn't mad, Matt. I was hurt. There's a world of difference." He grew serious again. "I know, and I promise I will never make you feel that way again." That afternoon, after Matt left, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the vibrant sunset paint the sky. I thought about everything that had unfolded over the past months. The raw pain, the deep hurt, the painful estrangement, and finally this tentative, precious reconciliation. I thought about how, at 67, I was still learning profound lessons about love, about respect, about personal dignity, about how sometimes we must say no to those we love, not because we lack affection for them, but precisely because we love them enough to want them to become better people. And I thought about how, ironically, by telling my grandson, "I don't need you," I ended up getting him back. Not as the dependent boy he once was, but as the strong, integrated man I'd always hoped he would become. The truth is, in the end, we all need each other. Not in a clinging, unhealthy way, or a self-serving one, but in a genuine, reciprocal way. We need people who love us for who we are, not just for what we can offer, who stand by us through thick and thin, who tell us uncomfortable truths when necessary. And most importantly, we need ourselves, our dignity, our self-respect, our unwavering personal boundaries. Because without that, what do we truly have of value to offer anyone else? Today, when I look at my grandson, I see that bright-eyed boy who used to race into my arms. But I also see the man he has become. More mature, more self-aware, more whole. And I know that, in some fundamental way, my no helped forge that transformation. That by respecting myself, I taught him to respect me too. And that our relationship now, painstakingly rebuilt on more solid foundations of mutual respect and consideration, is stronger than ever. Sometimes you have to lose something to truly appreciate what you have. Matt and I lost each other for a while, but we found each other again, in a deeper, more authentic way. And that, in the end, is worth more than any apartment, any co-signed lease, any sum of money. It is worth everything.